Welcome, everyone. Today is Wednesday, and I'm going to continue to read chapter 4 of Roll of Thunder. Now, yes, I know chapter 4 is a long chapter and it just gets longer. But yes, I've chunked it out for each day. Because the chapter is so long, because we don't have that much time together with our online learning classrooms, I'm going to actually do something that I never, ever, ever do, and I'm gonna just skip through some pages just to get to the good stuff. Now, as I'm skipping through the pages, I'm gonna summarize what we missed, and then we're gonna pick off from there. So, if you didn't yet do Monday and Tuesday's assignment, make sure you go back and do those assignments to get caught up. What we've read so far is that Stacy just beat up TJ at the Wallace store because Stacy was caught with TJ's cheat notes in Mama's class. Mr. Morrison broke up the fight, and Mr. Morrison agreed to not tell on the children, but he expects Stacy to tell himself. Now, we're going to skip some pages again. These pages is when Big Ma, the Logan children's grandmother, is talking about how much the land means to her. Her husband, who is now passed away, Paul Edward, had acquired or bought the land from some other people. As you guys know, it's not normal for Black people to have land or property during this time. Most other Black people just sharecrop on other white owners' lands, but it's very special that Big Ma and her family has their own land. Mr. Granger actually has been trying to buy the land off of Big Ma, but she knows that it's way too important to let go. All right, that's just to sum it up. We're going to continue right here. Despite our every effort to persuade Stacy otherwise, when Mama came home, he confessed that he had been fighting TJ at the Wallace store and that Mr. Morrison had stopped it. He stood awkwardly before her, disclosing only those things which he could honorably mention. He said nothing of TJ's cheating or that Christopher John Littleman and I had been with him. And when Mama asked him a question, he could not answer honestly. He simply looked at his feet and refused to speak. The rest of us sat fidgeting nervously throughout the interview, and when Mama looked our way, we swiftly found somewhere else to rest our eyes. Finally, seeing that she had gotten all the information she was going to get from Stacy, Mama turned to us. I suppose you three went to the store too, huh? But before any of us could squeak an answer, she exclaimed, "That does it," and began to pace the floor, her arms folded, her face crossed. Although she scolded us severely, she did not whip us. We were sent to bed early, but we didn't consider that a punishment, and we doubted that Mama did either. How we had managed to escape a whooping, we couldn't fathom until Saturday, when Mama woke us before dawn and piled us into the wagon. Taking us southwest toward Smellings Creek, she said, "Where we're going, the man is very sick, and he doesn't look like other people. But I don't want you to be afraid or uncomfortable when you see him. Just be yourselves." We rode for almost 2 hours before turning into a backwoods trail. We were jarred and bounced over the high road until we entered a clearing where a small weather-grayed house stood and fields stretched barren beyond it. As Mama pulled up on the reins and ordered us down, the front door cracked rarely open, but no one appeared. Then Mama said, "Good morning, Mrs. Berry. It's Mary Logan, David's wife." The door swung wide open, and an elderly woman, frail and toothless, stepped out. Her left arm swung crazily at her side as if it had been broken long ago but had not mended properly, and she walked with a limp, yet she smiled widely, throwing her good arm around Mama and hugging her. "Land sakes, child, ain't you something?" she exclaimed. "Coming to see about these old bones. I just said to Sam, I said, who you reckon come to see us old folks like us? These your babies, ain't they? Lord Almighty, ain't they fine?" She sure is. She hugged each of us and ushered us into the house. The interior was dark, lit only by a narrow slat of gray daylight allowed in by the open door. Stacy and I carried cans of milk and butter, and Christopher John and Little Man each had a jar of beef and a jar of Crowder peas, which Mama and Big Ma had canned. Mrs. Berry took the food, her thanks intermingled with questions about Big Ma, Papa, and others. When she had put the food away, she pulled stools from the darkness and motioned us to sit down. But then she went to the blackest corner and said, "Daddy, who you suppose done comes to see about us?" There was no recognizable answer, only an inhuman guttural wheezing. But Mrs. Berry seemed to accept it and went on. "Miss Logan and her babies. Ain't that something?" She took a sheet from a nearby table. "Gots to cover him," she explained. "He can't hardly stand to have nothing touch him." When she was visible again, she picked up a candle stump and felt around the table for matches. He can't speak no more. The fire burned him too bad. But he understands all right. Finding the matches, she lit the candle and turned once more to the corner. A still form lay there staring at us with glittering eyes. The face had no nose, and the head no hair. The skin was scarred, burned, and the lips were wizened black like charcoal. As the wheezing sound echoed from the opening that was a mouth, Mama said, "Say good morning to Mrs. Berry's husband, children." The boys and I stammered a greeting, then sat silently, trying not to stare at Mr. Berry during the hour that we remained in the small house. But Mama talked softly to both Mr. and Mrs. Berry, telling them news of the community, as if Mr. Berry were as normal as anyone else. After we were on the main road again, having ridden in thoughtful silence over the wooded trail, Mama said quietly, "The Wallaces did that, children. They poured kerosene over Mr. Berry and his nephews and lit them afire. One of the nephews died, and the other one is just like Mr. Berry." She allowed this information to penetrate the silence, then went on. "Everyone knows they did it, and the Wallaces even laugh about it, but nothing was ever done. They're bad people, the Wallaces. That's why I don't want you to ever go to their store again for any reason. You understand?" We nodded, unable to speak, as we thought of the disfigured man lying in the darkness. On the way home, we stopped at the homes of some of Mama's students, where families poured of tented shacks to greet us. At each farm, Mama spoke of the bad influences of the Wallaces, of the smoking and drinking permitted on their store, and asked that the family's children not be allowed to go there. The people nodded and said she was right. She also spoke of finding another store to patronize, one where the proprietors were more concerned about the welfare of the community. But she did not speak directly of what the Wallaces had done to the Berries, for, as she explained later, that was something that wavered between the known and the unknown, and to mention it outright to anyone outside of those with whom you were closest was not wise. There were too many ears that listened for others beside themselves, and too many tongues that wagged to those they shouldn't. The people only nodded, and Mama left. When we reached the Turner farm, Mo's widowed father rubbed his stubbled chin and squinted across the room at Mama. And that's tomorrow's lesson. We're gonna stop right there. Today's Wednesday, so that means we're gonna have Kahoot, reading Kahoot today in office hours at 4 o'clock. But remember, we're also going to have Zest Fest Kahoot with everybody, all your teachers and students and classes. That's 3 o'clock tomorrow on Thursday. So don't forget about it. All right, if you guys have any questions, let me know. Give me a call, text me, and see you later.